And the first talk is Taguchi-san, and the title is How is Consciousness Mediated by the Body, Phenomenological and Inactive Approaches. Please.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning. So I'm going to talk about how is consciousness mediated by the body. And I think in this room, maybe I am the only philosopher. I don't know, but I think there is no philosopher here. So maybe my talk is quite different from all talks that we heard yesterday or day before yesterday. But anyway, so I would like to talk about the phenomenological discussions about the body. It is quite philosophical, but I explain it in a plain language. So first, let me introduce myself. So I'm working at Hokkaido University, and I'm a director of a quite new center that is Center for Human Nature, Artificial Intelligence, and Neuroscience. It is a kind of interdisciplinary center, and the acronym is CHAIN. This acronym, this idea is originally Nao's idea, and we adopted that. And my research area is philosophy and especially phenomenology. And I wrote these books, and the last one is a joint book with Hayato Saigo on what is reality. And I've been working on phenomenology for almost 30 years, but recently I have been collaborating with mathematicians like Hayato, or neuroscientists, AI and robotics researchers, and cognitive scientists. I'm doing such a interdisciplinary thing that is very interesting to me. And my research topics include consciousness, self, intersubjectivity, and reality. So today I'm going to talk about these topics, especially the double meaning of the body. This is the key of my today's talk. First, introduction. So it is often said that our body is essentially important to have consciousness, or consciousness is essentially embodied. And such statements can be found not only in philosophy, but also in cognitive science and neuroscience. But what does it mean? So in what sense is the body essential for consciousness? That is still a question. In what follows, I will address this question from phenomenological and inactive approaches. And first, the lived body. This is a quite interesting concept in phenomenology, and I will explain it. Embodied consciousness. And so people often talk about embodied consciousness, but what does it mean? So it can mean that consciousness is not confined in the brain. And to have consciousness, we need to have the body outside brain and the body outside the brain, that both is necessary. The brain can only function to create consciousness when it is embedded in the whole body. But in this view, the body is seen as a mere physical object that can be found in the objective world. So the body in this explanation, the body is just a physical material body. But is this sufficient to understand the essential embodiment of consciousness? The phenomenologists and inactivists, I don't think this view is sufficient. So to understand the embodiment, we need to understand that our body is not just a material object, but it is also a lived body. This is the key. But what is lived body? So the concept of lived body, it is based on the distinction between Leib and Körper in Husserl's phenomenology. And Leib means lived body, and Körper means physical material body or body thing. It is also body thing. So my body is not only a physical thing, but also lived through by me, who is the active agent of my conduct and behavior. But what does it mean? So what is at issue here is the perspective of living through the body from within. So instead of looking at the body objectively, so when I am living as an acting agent, the body is the invisible medium of my actions and my life in general. So we don't look at our body from outside. Rather, we live through this body. And in this case, yeah, the body is somehow invisible. So I live in my body, or I live as my body. For me, the body is not an object. Rather, the body is me, or I am the body. So of course, the body is partially visible. So I can look at my hands, arms, legs, and so on, but not as a whole. So and even for the parts that are visible, we do not see them as objects when we actively move them. I don't look at my hand and in order to control my arm or something like that. Usually I move my hand and arms without looking at them. Yeah. So yeah, so we move not only the invisible parts of our bodies, but also our visible hands and feet without seeing them, So, or rather, we live through them. And that is the explanation of lived body. And next, let me move on to possible bodily actions. So the lived experience of bodily movement that I described in the previous section is characterized by its relation to certain possibilities. Possibility is the key here. Husserl sometimes expressed such bodily possibilities as I can, ich kann. So I can move my arms, I can move my legs, I can hit the ball, or I can hit, I can kick the ball or something like that. So this I can defines our consciousness in various ways. So for example, the visual qualia of colors are conditioned by the consciousness of possible bodily actions. So for example, what does this look like? So two color stripes maybe, but in fact, it is part of this box. So, and if we look at this picture, then we can immediately know that these two different colors are just another aspect of one single color. So and just there are just shadows. So why do they appear to be the same color in this case? So because we can now unconsciously imagine going around this box and looking at it from different angles, different perspectives. And this is all unconscious, I think. And as soon as we saw a three-dimensional space here, the possibilities of the bodily movement were triggered within us. So such possible bodily movements are always at work in us. So in this case, so we can put this box in a room, and then such possible bodily movements are more activated, I think. Yeah, when it is placed in a room, the potential bodily movements begin to come alive even more vividly behind our consciousness. And even if the actual body is not moving, yeah, we don't move we don't actually move our body, but the possibility of bodily movement is activated within us virtually. So then now we can understand why the two physically identical colors in this picture, so area A and area B, look different. They obviously look quite different, but in fact, as you know, they are the same. Physically, they are the same colors, but yeah, but in this case, they look very different. And in this case, we virtually and unconsciously imagine that we can move this cylinder from the panel, move away from the panel, and then the area B must look much more bright color. Or we can rotate this whole panel, and then area B must look different, much more brighter, I think. So such possible body movement is the key here, I think. And when phenomenologists say that the body is essential for consciousness, so what is at stake is not the physical body itself, but the possibility of such virtual bodily movements, I think. So therefore, you can have consciousness even when your physical body is not moving, and while sleeping, for example, or when the body is immobile due to ALS or locked-in syndrome and so on. So even in such cases, virtual bodily movements are still at work because such possibilities were cultivated before the body became immobile. So yeah, we can we already had, or these people, ALS patients or locked-in syndrome patients, they had bodily movements, so real bodily movements in their past experience, in the development and so on. That's why they can have such full consciousness. So on the other hand, if there is no real bodily movement at all from the beginning of life, maybe so consciousness may not arise. So you can recall the experiment of famous experiment of Held and Hein. A kitten whose bodily movements were restricted during development was unable to develop a certain consciousness of the outside world, for example, depth perception and so on. Maybe you know well this experiment. So this kitten A is active kitten, and kitten P is passive kitten. And this passive kitten, also active kitten can move freely, but passive kitten cannot move its body, and just it can just look around the same environment as the kitten A. Yeah, in this case, the kitten P cannot develop its certain ability to experience the environment. So they cannot develop its full consciousness. Okay, then yeah, let's move on to the third section, the double meaning of the body. So I said that phenomenologists emphasize the lived body. The lived body is the key, but however, this is not to say that the material body or body thing is not important. So we should not neglect the fact that the body has a double meaning. So the body as lived being and the body as a material, physical thing. So the two, we should not, the two are inextricably linked, or two sides of the same coin. So it is precisely because of this duality of the body, life and körper, that we can live in our bodies as agents without usually looking at them on the one hand, and while at the same time being rooted in the world and living as part of it on the other hand. So the body is an invisible agent on the one hand, and the body is also a material thing in the world, like a table or chair or other bodies. So this duality or double meaning of the body is also very important. So for my action, my body is always the 0 point of orientation, as Husserl said. From this perspective, I usually do not see it as an object while just living as an agent. So my body is not primarily visible, but the entire appearance of the world around me is constrained by this invisible acting body. Yeah, in this way. So the world is all around me and it surrounds me. And if my body moves, the appearance of the world changes. Like when riding a motorcycle, the landscape passes rapidly behind you, or if I rotate my body, then the world also rotates. So, and when I pay attention to my experience, so I cannot find any borders of the phenomenologically experienced world that appears to me. So I cannot find the borders of my visual field, for example. But it does not mean that it is everything. So of course, my visual field is limited and my experience is limited, but I cannot find borders of my experience. If I find such borders, then my experience is, of course, beyond that. That's why we cannot find borders of our experience. But it does not mean that it is everything. And so it is limited. So this is because this entire appearance of the world is bound to my body. So, and this body is this body is a material, physical thing. So that is only one of many material things in the world. So that is essentially limited in this sense. This is just one of them. Let me paraphrase this thought. So first, I know that the appearance of the world from my perspective intimately correlates with my bodily actions and movements. And second, at the same time, I know that the body is a material thing that is juxtaposed with other bodies that appear as material things. And I further paraphrase this. So first, no matter how far I go, my body is always here. I can move my body, but this is now here, and I can move my body. This is now here. So in this way, my body, the place where my body is always here. And it is impossible for me to find my body there, over there, in front of me or away from me. And second, at the same time, the here where I am is always interchangeable with there or other places. So here is replaceable with there. Husserl calls this absolute here and relative here. From what was said in the previous slides, we can understand that first, embodiment is a general feature that constrains consciousness. And second, this generality implies a fundamental prospectivity or relativity of any conscious experience. It's always perspectival or always relative. And this relativity, prospectivity is also a general feature of embodiment. So let me summarize. Fundamental embodiment implies, first, the correlation between bodily agency and phenomena. And second, the fact that the body is at the same time a material thing, and therefore only one of many thing objects. So as a synthesis of these 2 points, we can understand the limitation of our perspective, and the body is the keystone that connects these 2 points. Yeah, of course, this is just a very, very small part, tiny part of the phenomenological discussions of the body. And there are many other topics like kinesthesis or the body double sensation of the body schema and body image, and so on. But now I cannot enter these other topics. Now, if I have time, yeah, let me explain a little bit more about inactive embodiment. So inactivists also emphasize embodiment, and Varela, Thompson, and Roche wrote this famous book, The Embodied Mind. And in this book, they argue that the world and perceiver specify each other. And on the one hand, colors are not out there, independent of our perception. And on the other hand, they are not in here, independent of our surrounding world. So Varela, Thompson, and Roche, they go through a middle path between the cognition as the recovery of a pre-given outer world, which means realism, and the cognition as the projection of a pre-given inner world, which would be idealism. So a middle path between realism and idealism, that is what inactivists claim. And Varela, Thompson, and Roche also said something like that. Our intention is to bypass entirely this logical geography of inner versus outer by studying cognition not as recovery or projection, but as embodied action. And also, like Merleau-Ponty, we have emphasized that a proper appreciation of this twofold sense of embodiment provides a middle way or entre-deux between the extremes of absolutism and nihilism. And Varela also speaks of interbeing. It is also a very interesting concept. And it is, he thinks it is crucial for embodiment. And he also talks about inactive co-determination of me, other. And this is a quote from Varela's paper. Individuality and intersubjectivity are not in opposition, but necessarily complementary. So my consciousness is, in a sense, distinct from others. It is individual, but at the same time, it is dependent on others. This all is because we have body. So because of the body, we have this double meaning of our subjectivity. Yeah. And consciousness are intertwined with each other. Various consciousnesses are intertwined because each of them has a body as its anchoring point. So which means it is embedded in and inseparable from the same world. We all live in the same world, and we have each of us have a body, and that's why we all belong to the same world. And because of that, our consciousnesses are intertwined with each other necessarily. And at the same time, each body is different and unique. So by being stretched between the body as such individual, different, unique thing and the world as the same world as a universal place, consciousness can be both individual and intersubjective at the same time. So let me conclude. The distinction between lived body and material body is crucial. That is the claim of phenomenologists and inactivists. And lived body is a key to understand why the body is essential for consciousness. And double meaning of the body, this is also a very important point in phenomenological and inactive discussions about the body. And this double meaning is lived body, life, and material body, körper. And on the one hand, this allows us to experience everything from my perspective. And at the same time, this also allows us to be situated and embedded in the same world. So inactive view of the body is, I also talked about an active view of the body, and inactivists emphasize the middle path between internal view of the world, which can correspond to idealism and realism. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.